Karen and her mom tried to hit me after I used the women's bathroom to change my son. First of all, sorry for any mistakes, English isn't my first language. I'm not sure if this belongs here or on r/Karens, but here's what happened. I, 19M, am a single dad to my son, Leo, 11 months. Earlier today, I was invited to celebrate my friend's birthday at the mall with a few friends, so I took Leo with me. It was supposed to be a short, fun outing. Everything was fine until I noticed that unmistakable smell. Leo needed a change, fast. I looked around for a family bathroom, but surprise, there wasn't one. And, of course, no changing tables in the men's bathroom. I approached an employee and asked if there were changing tables anywhere else, and she told me they were only in the women's bathroom. She saw my hesitation and kindly said I could go in if it was an emergency, so I took a deep breath, thanked her, and went in with Leo. As soon as I stepped in, I felt the eyes of every woman in there. It was super uncomfortable, but I focused on getting to the changing table and started taking care of Leo. Then, out of nowhere, this teenage girl came up to me with a glare that could cut steel. She looked around 16 or 17, and her expression screamed Karen in training. Let's call her Karen. Karen, what are you doing in here? Me, changing my son's diaper. I kept my tone calm, hoping she'd just leave me alone. Karen, you shouldn't be in here. This is for women. Me, there are no changing tables in the men's room, and this was my only option. Karen, then change him at the sink or ask your girlfriend to do it. Me, the sink isn't safe, and I don't have a girlfriend. Karen, figures. Guys like you come in here to harass women, then act innocent. At this point, I was speechless, and then, without warning, she raised her hand and tried to swing at me, shouting, "You pervert." Before her hand connected, some women nearby grabbed her, holding her back as she thrashed and yelled. I was still stunned, but I managed to finish changing Leo, pack up his things, and bolt out of the bathroom. The second I got back to my friends, I told them everything. We were just starting to laugh about it when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Karen stomping toward us, this time with a woman who looked like she could be her mother. My heart sank. I thought this was going to get ugly. And I was right. This woman was even worse. She stormed up to our table, and before I could even open my mouth, she started going off. Karen's mom, what kind of creep do you think you are, barging into a women's restroom? Me, ma'am, I was only in there to change my son's diaper. The employee said it was okay, there's no changing table in the men's room. Karen's mom, I don't care what some minimum wage worker told you. Men like you don't belong in there. What if my daughter had been alone? At this point, my friends jumped in to defend me. They'd seen I'd been gone for a while and were concerned, but they had no idea this was happening until I told them. Friend 1, he's a single dad. What was he supposed to do? Change him on the floor? Friend 2, and your daughter tried to hit him while he was just taking care of his baby. Karen's mom, don't you dare speak to me that way. I'll call the mall security, or even the police, if I have to. She actually took out her phone, pretending to dial. I honestly started to panic, but my friends weren't intimidated. Friend 3, go ahead and call them. Let's see how that plays out when we tell them your daughter tried to hit a father changing his baby's diaper. Her confidence wavered for a second, but she quickly switched tactics, looking around and starting to raise her voice like she was trying to get attention from other people nearby. Karen's mom, this man thinks he can just walk into a women's bathroom and make everyone uncomfortable. Luckily, some of the women from the bathroom who had seen everything came over to back us up. One of them told her straight up, your daughter was out of line, and your friend was doing nothing wrong. He was just trying to take care of his baby. Another woman said, maybe teach your daughter not to jump to conclusions and physically threaten strangers. Karen's mom turned bright red, looking around as she realized people were glaring at her and not me. With a final huff, she yanked her daughter by the arm and stormed off. The whole scene had drawn some attention, and I could see other people in the food court shaking their heads and laughing. After they left, my friends and I sat back down, and they couldn't stop teasing me. They said I just lived every dad's nightmare, and somehow, it was kind of funny. We laughed it off, and the best part? Leo was completely oblivious, happy and comfortable in his stroller as if nothing had happened. Karen demands a free meal over a minor mistake. Last week, I was working my usual shift at a local diner. It's a cozy little spot, family-owned, and I've been there long enough to know most of our regulars. It was a quiet Tuesday evening when she walked in, classic Karen vibes from the start, large sunglasses, designer purse, and an air of entitlement you could smell from a mile away. She sauntered up to the counter and demanded a booth. I politely pointed her to one of our open ones, and she snapped, "Not that one. The one in the back. It has better lighting." The booth in the back was closed off for cleaning, but instead of explaining that, I just nodded, grabbed a cloth, and quickly wiped it down, all while she watched with crossed arms and a sigh, as if I were taking up her precious time. Finally, she settled in and immediately started listing her demands before I could even hand her a menu. "I want an iced tea with lemon, but not too much ice, and a club sandwich, no tomatoes, extra mayo, and make sure the bread isn't too toasted." Her list went on, specifying everything down to the last crumb. When the order came out, I double-checked it to make sure everything was just as she'd requested. She took one look, rolled her eyes, and snapped, "What is this?" I said no tomatoes. I apologized, explained that I had checked the order myself and hadn't seen any tomatoes, but she had already started her tirade, loudly enough for the entire diner to hear. I come to places like this for service, not to be ignored or insulted. Do you even listen to your customers? Or do you just do whatever you feel like? I tried to keep my calm, repeating my apology and offering to remake the sandwich. But Karen wasn't having it. No, you've already ruined my meal. I'm not eating this." She put her fork down dramatically, letting it clatter onto her plate. Then, with a smug smile, she added, "I think I'll need this meal comped. You know, to make up for the way I'd been treated." My manager overheard her demands and approached, trying to de-escalate. "Ma'am, I understand your frustration, and we're happy to replace your order free of charge. But we can't comp the whole meal based on this one mistake." Karen's face turned red. "Unbelievable. Do you even care about customer satisfaction? I'll be sure to leave a review online. This place clearly has no idea how to treat people." But my manager wasn't backing down. "Ma'am, we're doing our best to serve you, but we can only offer a replacement meal, not a free one. If you'd like, we can get it right out to you." Karen crossed her arms, visibly seething. But realizing she wasn't going to get her way, she grudgingly accepted the replacement. She didn't touch it, though. Instead, she just sat there, sipping her iced tea and giving me dirty looks every time I passed by. When she finally left, she huffed loudly and tossed a $1 bill onto the table as a tip, her parting gift to us. Later that night, we checked our online reviews out of curiosity. There it was, her review in all caps, "The worst customer service experience ever. This place disrespects paying customers. Avoid at all costs." The funny thing is, though, that for every Karen who tries to pull something like this, we have 10 amazing regulars who support us. The next day, one of those regulars overheard me talking about her, chuckled, and left a glowing 5-star review, saying, "Best diner around, great staff, great food, and no nonsense. Ignore any ridiculous reviews. This place is the best." In the end, Karen's attempt at a power play didn't hold up. She might have thought she was entitled to a free meal for the slightest inconvenience, but she ended up getting just what she ordered, nothing more, nothing less. Karen insists on her free birthday meal that doesn't exist. So, last month, I was covering the dinner shift at our little family-owned restaurant. It was just an average Tuesday, busy but manageable, until she walked in, Karen with a capital K. She marched up to the counter with a big, self-important smile, her platinum hair perfectly styled, and carrying a tote bag that could probably fit a small car inside. I greeted her and asked how many were in her party. She looked at me, wide-eyed, and said, "I'm here for my free birthday dinner." Now, here's the thing, we don't have any kind of birthday promotion or free meal policy. Sure, we'll bring out a little dessert with a candle for birthday guests, but that's about it. I politely explained this to Karen, who stared at me like I had just told her the world was flat. "Well, I was told by a friend that birthday meals are free here," she said, her voice starting to climb in pitch. You're not going to ruin my special day, are you? I reassured her that while we didn't do free meals, we'd be happy to make her dinner special with a complimentary dessert. But she wouldn't let it go. I didn't come here for a dessert, I came here for my birthday dinner. I think I deserve it, I'm turning 49, after all. I excused myself and got my manager, hoping he could handle her, but the moment he approached, she leaned into her whole Karen routine. Is it really too much to ask? Just one meal. It's the least you could do for someone celebrating a big milestone. My manager, ever patient, tried to explain that we didn't offer free dinners, but he could see she wasn't going to let it go, so he offered her a 10% discount on her meal. But no, Karen wasn't having it. She scoffed. 10%? That's nothing. You think that's how you treat a paying customer? She started getting loud enough that nearby tables started looking over. Do you want me to leave a negative review? Maybe I'll take my business to a place that actually cares about birthdays. In the end, my manager stayed firm, reminding her again of our policy. She huffed, eventually ordering the most expensive steak on the menu and a glass of wine, muttering all the while about how her birthday was ruined. When the bill came, she tried one last trick. I thought this was supposed to be a discount, she snapped, pointing at the bill. My manager pointed out the 10% discount he'd added, and she rolled her eyes, snapping her wallet shut. Finally, she paid, leaving a big fat zero on the tip line, of course, and stormed out. Later that night, one of our regulars came over after watching the whole spectacle and joked, maybe next time, put a sign up, no free birthday meals for Karens. We all laughed, and one of my coworkers said, honestly, it'd save us all some trouble. Sure enough, the next morning we found her review online, a whole essay about how we ruined her birthday, ending with, avoid this place at all costs. They don't care about their customers at all. Thankfully, some regulars saw it and left glowing reviews to drown it out. And by the end of the week, Karen's free birthday dinner tantrum was just another story we laughed about at the end of our shifts. Am I the a-hole for calling out a Karen who wanted a kid arrested over spilled ice cream? Alright, here we go. This went down last weekend, and I still can't get over how absurd it was. So, I, 29M, was out with my girlfriend at a local park. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon, kids playing, people having picnics, all around good vibes. We're sitting on a bench, enjoying our ice cream cones, just chilling. And that's when she appeared, the Karen. Now, I don't want to jump to stereotypes, but she had the entire Karen look down. Shoulder-length blonde bob, oversized sunglasses, one of those shrill voices you can hear from a mile away, and this aura of entitlement that could probably be spotted from space. So, we're just minding our own business when a little boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, runs by with an ice cream cone. His mom is following him a few feet back, and you can tell he's all excited and hyped up on sugar. Suddenly, the kid trips and bam, his ice cream cone flies out of his hand and hits Karen smack on her blouse. Cue the meltdown. Karen looks down at her shirt, gasps like she's just been stabbed, and lets out this horrifying shriek. People around us stop what they're doing, and even the birds go silent. Karen is standing there, holding her hands out like she just touched something toxic, and glaring at the kid, who's still on the ground with tears welling up in his eyes. Before anyone can say a word, Karen storms over to the kid and yells, "Do you have any idea what you just did? This is a $300 blouse." The poor kid is shaking, and his mom rushes over, apologizing profusely and saying it was an accident. She's already taking out some napkins to try and help Karen clean up, but Karen just swats her hand away like she's holding a weapon. Karen then turns on the mom, her voice going up about 5 octaves, and says, "Your kid just assaulted me. Do you know how much the shirt costs? You're paying for it. And I'm calling the police." Yes. The police. Over ice cream. At this point, I'm just sitting there, totally stunned, and my girlfriend gives me this look like, oh my god, is she serious? The mom tries to calm Karen down, saying it was just an accident and offering to pay for dry cleaning. But Karen isn't having any of it. Dry cleaning won't fix this. This shirt is ruined. Then she whips out her phone, dramatically dials 911, and starts shrieking into the phone about an attack and how she's been assaulted. By now, a small crowd has gathered, and everyone's whispering to each other, clearly horrified by Karen's behavior. A few people try to step in, telling Karen to let it go, but she's not listening. She's got this crazed look in her eyes and keeps ranting about how this delinquent kid needs to learn consequences. The kid is now openly sobbing, clutching his mom's leg, while she tries to comfort him. At this point, I can't take it anymore. I stand up and say, "Excuse me, but are you seriously calling the police over spilled ice cream? It was a complete accident. Just let it go." Karen whips around, blaring daggers at me. Mind your own business. People like you are why kids these days have no respect. I can feel the anger bubbling up, but I keep my cool. Lady, he's a kid. He didn't assault you. He tripped. You're embarrassing yourself. The crowd murmurs in agreement, but Karen isn't backing down. She huffs and says, "When the police get here, we'll see who's embarrassed." She's got this smug grin on her face like she's about to win some grand prize. About 10 minutes later, a cop car actually pulls up. At this point, I'm genuinely curious to see how this is going to play out. Karen immediately starts wailing about her $300 blouse and how this kid attacked her. She's practically doing a performance for the cop, complete with hand gestures and exaggerated sighs, like she's auditioning for a soap opera. The officer looks at the kid, then back at Karen, and raises an eyebrow. He asks, "Ma'am, are you telling me that you called 911 over spilled ice cream?" Karen crosses her arms, nodding furiously. "It's not just ice cream. It's assault. I demand you charge him for damaging my property." The cop looks at her like she's lost her mind. "Ma'am, I'm not arresting a 6-year-old over an accident. This is a waste of police resources." He glances around at the crowd and says, "Is there anyone here who can confirm this was an accident?" Everyone around her, myself included, starts nodding and chiming in with comments about how it was just a kid being a kid, and Karen's been making a huge scene for no reason. At this point, Karen is starting to look seriously embarrassed, but she still tries to hold her ground. But my blouse. It's designer. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife a Karen for complaining about our daughter's class Valentine's party being cancelled? Alright, so here's the full picture. My daughter is in 3rd grade, and while she's an absolute sweetheart at home, she's been placed in a class that's a bit of a nightmare. It's a rough group, let's just say lots of behavior issues, disrespectful kids, and general chaos. I've been pretty impressed with her teacher. She's been teaching for over a decade and has a solid reputation. Yet, it's clear she's dealing with an unusually difficult bunch this year. On Friday the 12th, right before Martin Luther King Jr. Day, her teacher attempted to read a story about MLK's life to the class at the end of the school day. This is where things went south. After school, the teacher made a detailed post on the communication platform teachers use to keep parents informed. She expressed that the behavior she encountered while reading that story was the worst she'd ever faced in her career. She described her students as being unbelievably disrespectful, rude, and disinterested. She had to send multiple kids to the office, and at one point, she stopped the story and had everyone put their heads down in silence with the lights off. Even then, the noise continued. Students were giggling, whispering, and not paying attention. Curious about what was going on, I asked my daughter for details. She shared that one boy made a crude joke about MLK's death, another stood up and did an embarrassing dance, and a third thought it would be hilarious to mimic fart sounds by blowing into his elbow. Thankfully, my daughter said she stayed quiet and listened, and later, her teacher confirmed this. But it was clear that a significant portion of the class was misbehaving. The following week, the teacher announced some collective consequences. First, the entire class had to spend both their recesses on the wall on the Tuesday they returned. The 3 boys who caused the most trouble were on the wall for the entire week. Second, they were given extra homework assignments each night focused on MLK, adding about 15 minutes of additional work each evening. And then the biggest blow, the class Valentine's Day party, a highlight for 3rd graders where they usually get to create Valentine boxes, exchange gifts, and eat candy while listening to music, was cancelled. Instead, during that time, they would be taking a social studies test. My daughter was heartbroken over the party cancellation, and I could see her frustration. She didn't feel it was fair, especially since she hadn't acted out during the reading. My wife shared her disappointment, and I understood where they were coming from, but the more my wife talked about it, the more her frustration turned into anger. She began to criticize the teacher and her methods, claiming they were unjustly harsh. As the days went on, my wife's complaints became more frequent, and she started to bring up the idea of talking to the principal about the situation. She felt our daughter's teacher was unfairly punishing all the kids for the actions of a few. I listened to her vent, but I also felt that there was a lesson here about accountability and consequences. One evening, after another round of my wife's complaints, I snapped. In a moment of frustration, I told her she sounded like a Karen. I felt that her desire to complain was over the top, and I appreciated the teacher for standing her ground. I said something like, "Life isn't always fair, sometimes, you just have to deal with it." Well, that was the wrong thing to say. My wife instantly got upset, and we had a heated argument. She accused me of being insensitive and dismissive of her feelings. She argued that I was invalidating our daughter's emotions and not recognizing the unfairness of the whole situation. She insisted that my comments were unhelpful and only added to her frustration. As I listened to her, I realized that I hadn't fully appreciated how upset my daughter was. She had lost out on something she was looking forward to, and while I believed in the teacher's decision, my wife's perspective wasn't entirely without merit. But at the same time, I felt strongly that our daughter needed to learn that actions have consequences, especially in a classroom environment where respect is paramount. Despite my rationalizations, I could see that my wife was genuinely hurt by my comments, and she felt like I wasn't supporting her as a partner or parent. I had called her a Karen, a term that carries a lot of baggage and connotations, and it stung. I think I had underestimated how much this situation impacted her. My wife really cares about our daughter's well-being and happiness, and I had dismissed her worries instead of engaging in a constructive conversation.